Hello everyone, my name is Lennard and I'm an application engineer for Rigel Medical. This is the final part of our Vital Signs webinar series. So today we're going to go through our patient simulators, two of them, the Rigel Uni-Sim and the PatSim 200. Some of their key features, the automatic testing, manual testing and recall settings that we've got involved with these testers, and also the demonstration on a patient monitor with these patient simulations. So a little bit about ourselves at Rigel Medical. We're part of Seawood Electronic Limited. We've got a manufacturing and development team which is based in the UK. We've got ISO 9001 and ISO 17025. We offer a growing range of biomedical test and measurement solutions, including our PatSim range. We've got global distribution and after sales network, including our USA office, which is based in Tampa, and that's headed up by Paul Fopel. And so these are the two products which we'll be going through today. PatSim 200 on the right and the Uni-Sim on the left. We've got a demonstration here with some of the patient simulation functions and their connections. So firstly, I'm going to go into the Uni-Sim and give a demonstration as well on the Uni-Sim. Okay, so some of the key features of the Uni-Sim. Some of you might know it's a multi-parameter simulator. It's our all-in-one patient simulator. We've got SpO2 simulation with the Rigel Pulsar. This is an optical finger simulator. It does NIBP, non-invasive blood pressure simulations, oscillometric method. It also has leak tests, pop-off tests, all the other NIBP function tests you have involved. We've got invasive blood pressure, IBP, 2-channel. We've got temperature simulations, respiration simulations, and ECG waveforms. We've got multiple different types of ECG waveforms, ventricular, performance waveforms, etc. The key features continued. So the Uni-Sim, despite being a multi-parameter simulator, is handheld. It's battery powered. You can take it anywhere. Anyone who's aware of our electrical safety tester analyzers, the 288 or 62353, it's the same size as that. Very portable. So we've got the Pulsar accessory. One button simulation. So this is a quick setup. In regards to the one button simulation, this is manual mode. Switch the device on and it will be at the settings that were previously set. Simply hit the green button and those preset patient simulations will be utilised. So you can program different patient conditions for quick simulation and verification under different conditions. We've got onboard memory, which records data electronically, reducing the need for manual check sheets, and downloadable results to the PC for full traceability. The onboard memory records, this is not available in the manual mode, automatic mode only, but I'll go into that in the demonstration, go into a bit more detail. So the Rigel Pulsar, this is the simulation accessory for the Uni-Sim. It's got a large number of default curves, manufacturer specific, customised R curve for full flexibility, SpO2 settings from 30 to 100%, O2 saturation. We've got signals coming from the monitor which are in a closed loop, red and infrared, and both ways are tested in red and infrared wavelengths. Now with this method, the monitor, extension cable and sensor are tested all at the same time. We've got a table there, so we're looking at repeatability, not accuracy. Is one thing to take note. We improve the repeatability of SpO2 testing by having these manufacturer specific R curves. We do have if anyone's missed the previous webinars where I spoke about R curves, this is available on our website. so please view that if O curves aren't particularly understood. Also, in the last webinar, I went through simulation setup. How will we connect the device to the patient monitor? So this is all the various connections you have with a patient, a multi-parameter patient monitor. Again, this will be something I'll show in the demonstration for manual mode. So the manual mode simulations. The manual mode provides the user with the features of testing a specific individual test and/or test condition. For example, you can test to a selection of SpO2 values, heart rates. You've got built-in manufacturer O and R curves, skin colour variation, perfusions, different ECG arrhythmias. We can also check the quality of the LED using the Rigel pulsar. So the diagram on the right gives an example of how we set up these settings, but what will be much more beneficial is if I give a demonstration and run through the manual settings and a simulation on the patient monitor. So we've got a series of interconnecting cables which are available from our website depending on the manufacturer. On the patient monitor we've got our ECG connections plugged in, and we've also got one of the SpO2 fingers because we're going to be simulating with a pulsar. I'll show you that in a second. So on the back of the Uni-Sim, or the top of the Uni-Sim, we've got a series of connections here. Connection ports, you've got NIBP, temperature, ECG box, IBP and SpO2 here. So this first cable I've got is temperature. It's a LEMO connection. And then we've got the Rigel pulsar. Connect into this port here. We've got our cuff. It's important this is on a T-piece. So we've got part of the tubing goes to the Uni-Sim with this connector here. This is where it gets a bit messy. Just like getting lots of cables. The problem with a multi-parameter simulator is you'll have a lot of connections. And then we've got this connection here which plugs straight into the patient monitor. And what we wrap the cuff around plastic there. Finally, we've got our ECG connector box. Well, I say finally, we've still got the IBP cable to plug in. So final cable on the back of the Uni-Sim anyway is a 5-way LEMO connection. There we go, it's starting to look a bit messy. There's not a lot we can do about that, I'm afraid. Anyway, there's a power supply, I'll just plug that in as well for the Uni-Sim. And now if we go to now let's have a look at the side of the patient monitor. So firstly we plug in the SpO2 cable, so start with that one for the patient connections. Make sure the patient monitor is on and the Uni-Sim is performing a simulation, just so we can see that the LEDs are lining up. And what will happen on the pulsar is you'll get two blue lights. Make sure they're not flashing. A bit fiddly this part. Okay, so that's okay. That's set up. And then from the Uni-Sim we want to connect our temperature cable. So we're going to go to temperature port 1. We've got IBP 1. And then for NIBP, you need to use some sort of cylindrical piece of equipment for the cuff. We've actually got a piece of cylindrical plastic perspex, and then from here, this is where we want the NIBP to connect to the back of the Uni-Sim, or NIBP connection. So we've got a T-piece. This goes to the Uni-Sim, and this plugs into the patient monitor here. And then we've got our ECG connections that plug in here. When you first switch the Uni-Sim on, you'll come to this screen here, and this is where all your manual settings are. So your manual output for the simulations. And to change these settings, you've got F1, F2 and F3. So first I'll just go into F1, your patient test settings. So we'll go to, and then go to F3, F4, and we can change these accordingly. We'll keep the heart rate with normal sinus rhythm for this demonstration. Heart rate 80 BPM, and we'll put systolic to diastolic 120/80. The temperature as is. And respiration 15 breaths a minute. That's standard. That's the patient test settings. We go back to home. We can then set SpO2. That's already on the correct setting. Sometimes it will be set to settings that without the pulsar. So on here, we've got Philips monitor, which is the monitor we'll be testing today. But because we're using the pulsar, we want to set it to Philips HP pulsar. 100% SpO2, heart rate 80. Keep it like that. NIBP test settings. Then we've got a series of other NIBP tests which I went through in the webinar. Your leak test, static pressure, pop-off tests. So you can do these manually as well, but we're only interested in the test settings. Default adult 120/80. We'll put 60/30 just to throw in an anomaly on this test, just as an example. Keep the heart rate at 80. That's fine. Then we hit the home button, and as you can see, all the test settings are there on screen. Now to perform the simulation, all we've got to do is hit the green button. So we're performing our patient simulation, and everything is as expected on the monitor. Heart rate 80 beats per minute, SpO2 100%, respiration 15, temperature 37, all spot on as we'd expect. For IBP though, we need to do a 0 for this, and to do that we go into the menu on this particular monitor, and on the patient simulator, so if we need to go back to that, we go to the PAT settings, static IBP test, automatically set up for 0, select APB0, it's going to give us a few alarms while we're disconnected. We wait for the 0 to complete on the monitor. And we can come back out the PatSim menu, go home and start the manual simulation again. We need to select my number of ECG leads. And everything is as expected. The values are well within range. One more test we need to do, manual mode, is NIBP. So all the values are close to as expected. Diastolic is slightly high on both IBP and NIBP, but for the specification of this monitor would be within spec. In terms of NIBP, I spoke before that it's purely for repeatability and not for accuracy. Static pressure tests, which we do in service modes, which test the accuracy of the monitor itself. So in terms of repeatability, if you're getting the same results, then this is a reading to be expected. Okay, so as you can see, the manual mode is relatively easy to use. It's just really the setup that can be quite convoluted with patient simulation and patient monitors. Many connections, you've got to zero IBP and a number of other settings corrections to get the right measurements on display. But now we've run through that, I wanted to show you automatic mode using the Uni-Sim. Much more comprehensive. You can run a series of simulations in succession. You can also include the leak and pop-off tests, etc. You can even include custom tests to say whether the visual inspection has been carried out. So it gives the user the ability to run a preset test sequence and then store that data afterwards. You can then view, download or print those results. So we've got a number of programs available which allows you to download the data. We've also got a Bluetooth printer printing these results using the Uni-Sim, or you can just view them on the Uni-Sim itself. So each test record is stored using the asset ID number against the date and time of test. And with this you can choose a selection of default test sequences or custom made test sequences. A total of 50 of these preset sequences can be stored. So again, with a demonstration, I'm going to show automatic tests using actually running through the menus on the Uni-Sim itself and how that's displayed on a patient monitor. So I'll just play that demonstration now. The Rigel Uni-Sim also has custom preset test sequences, so an automatic mode for carrying out patient simulation. With this you can also store the results against your asset ID numbers. So if I go to automatic mode, there'll be a preset default test sequence, and some custom test sequences that I've set up previously. The way you do this is you go to F4, set up test sequences. The easiest way is to copy the default adult test sequence rather than creating one from scratch. I'm going to call this one Philips, custom to this monitor. So let's edit SPO2, we need to edit that. It needs to be Philips Pulsar. I'm going to set SPO2 to 100, heart rate 80. Default adult 120/80. That's our default settings. And we'll leave the other values as they are. Now, with the setup, it sometimes takes a while for the measurement on the monitor to stabilize. So the standard duration is 30 seconds, but I prefer to set it 60. Enough time to get stabilized values. So now this test sequence is set up for this particular monitor. One more thing I'll just add actually on there when you edit the tests. We've got start all tests. If you want to add extra values for patient simulation, you might want to go for a sequence of tests. You can add them here at the end and then select start all tests again, and that will give you the option to record all those values. It's important to note that with the Uni-Sim, the values cannot be recorded during the simulation, so you'll need to note down the values you get on screen on your monitor, unless of course your monitor is able to save those values. Then you can save them on there and input them later, but it doesn't come up during simulation, only at the end of the test. So if I now go to automatic mode, no, sorry, 1 second. So with the Philips monitor or any patient monitor, we'll need to perform another 0. Go to the Pat menu, static IBP test set to 0 manually, and then we'll ABP 0 on the monitor. Automatic mode, so we'll call this CM12. The asset ID, it's Philips to the Philips monitor. Visual inspect the unit. Purely for demonstration purposes, I'm not going to run through the NIBP test again, but those values will be recorded at the bottom. So we've got 125/87 for IBP, 106, 100% SpO2, 90 beats per minute and 15 respirations per minute at 37 degrees. That's pretty much what we'd expect. A little bit high on the IBP, but probably in spec for this particular monitor. So that simulation is now complete. From here, you can put down the noted values. I didn't write these values down, but for demonstration purposes, again, I will just key in values that we might expect. Heart rate 90, 100% SpO2. Heart rate, I believe it was 90. Temperature, spot on, 37.0. Respiration was 15. And IBP, I think it was 125/87. Put some comments in there if you wish. We could say that's passed. And that's it, an automatic test carried out. What I'll do now is show you some of the methods for data transfer. So how do we view that data? We've just inputted from the test. We've got the view data option. So you can see your results on the screen. So let's look at CM12. View those results. All the results we've inputted. But that's not much good to an engineer. We want to really be able to print the results or download the results. So you've got print result or print label using our Bluetooth printer as an optional accessory. Or the other option is to download the data to your PC. There are two ways you can do this. You can either download data via Rigel Medibase, which are comprehensive software for purchase, but we have also got our data transfer program, which is available for free on our website, and this will download all your results into Excel format, either TXT or CSV. So what I'll do now is I'll quickly show you how that's done. Bluetooth's already been paired for this device, so if we go download to PC, it's going to connect when we start capture on here. So we call that, let's call that example, and we'll keep this, change that to CSV. So it's connected. Now we hit send, and then stop capture. And then if we go into the Excel spreadsheet here, this shows all the data we just downloaded, listed with all our results under our asset ID number. So moving on to the PatSim 200. This is more of a manual tester. There's not as many functions, not as comprehensive as Uni-Sim, but it's very easy to use. It's sort of like our entry range patient simulator. So included in this, we've got ECG simulations. It's 12 lead. We've got over 40 selectable arrhythmias, your supraventricular, your ventricular, performance waveforms. There's multiple different types of arrhythmias available. If you missed the second webinar, I went through some of the different arrhythmias that the PatSim actually has, but if you, for any reference, please refer back to that presentation. So we've got respiration simulation on lead 1 and lead 2. There's universal temperature simulation and 2-channel IBP simulation, as well as fetal simulations. So the key features, got a large colour display with intuitive navigation, on-screen waveform display for quick reference. It's got a rechargeable lithium-ion battery with up to 6 hours of operation between charges, universal ECG studs, and got a dedicated home navigation button and a robust carry case to protect your simulator. You've got unique test profiles, I'll show you more detail in our demonstration video how to do this. We use the Rigel home button. With this you've got storage for up to 5 commonly used test sequences. So you've got single press recall settings, very easy to use and time saving. And we also got on-screen waveform displays for a quick reference. Cost-effective connectors compatible with legacy cables. We have the wiring diagrams available on the PatSim 200 user manual, and it also comes with a 5-year manufacturer warranty. So now I'll just go through a demonstration video using the PatSim and how that works with the patient monitor. It's got the PatSim 200 with colour display, very simple to use, not as comprehensive as the Uni-Sim. There's no NIBP or SpO2 tests. This is more of a ECG and simulation with temperature and IBP, as well as respiration tests as part of the ECG simulation. Very simple to use. It's got home and recall functions, so it's easy to move between tests. And it's got this option here. If you press the Rigel home key, if you press the Rigel key here, we can go to local settings, and these are your most used simulations, and it gives you that option to recall from location 5. There we go. Now if we want to edit those tests to be your most used sequences, so let's change that back to 37. Static pressures. Let's have some dynamic pressures. Arterial 120/80. Some dynamic simulation. And any others you want to set up within there, you can. Now to store that, you go home, now you press the Rigel key, hold down F5 this time, and then you can save locate settings to location 5. Now whenever you want to recall that test that you've set up in there, you just simply hit the Rigel key, 5, recall those settings, and you've got your arterial, etc. When you switch off the PatSim and go back into it, it will always go back to the settings you've previously used. So very easy to use. In most cases you're just going to carry out manual simulations, and I'll quickly show you how to do that. So same patient monitor, we've got our ECG connections. It's a 3-lead ECG. Connect on the 4mm studs. ECG on the top, RA, LA and LL. And on the side, got temperature. And we've got our IBP connection. Then we've got a series of simulations on the patient monitor. IBP exactly as expected, 120/80, respiration 15. So yeah, reading perfectly there for those parameters. Obviously we've got no NIBP and SpO2, so we won't have those values on screen. The good thing about this particular patient simulator is the ability to quickly test different types of arrhythmias. Okay, so if we go to atrial flutter, it's a very unique waveform where you've got the QRS complex and the atrial flutter in between these complexes. So if we're testing the ECGs, the ECG monitor's capability of detecting these arrhythmias. We can see the atrial flutter shown on display there. Gives you a graphical representation. We've also got performance waveforms. So these might be used in service modes. And that's the PatSim 200. Very simple, easy to use patient simulator. And compared to the Uni-Sim, it's not as comprehensive. So it's sort of our entry level patient simulator. That brings us to the end of our demonstration and webinar. If you've got any questions or you'd like any one-to-one demonstrations in the future, please let me know in the chat box below. Any more details on the features, please feel free to ask me any questions and I'll answer them as best I can. If there's anything more comprehensive, I'll get back to you at a later date. For anyone else that's just here to view the webinar, thank you for viewing today. I hope it was of use, and hope to see you at the next series of webinars. Thank you.